Okay, I have a fire-inspired custom jersey. Um, I use some blends. I use some backgrounds. I use some opacity tools to come up with this jersey. This is off of the checkered jersey. It's one of the many options that we have inside gear. And yeah, I just put some things together and ultimately created a pretty cool fire-inspired jersey. And now we're gonna take a look to see how I did that. So I'm starting off with the jersey that I've already kind of picked the colors that I'm wanting on the base part of the jersey. And the second tab here is effects. And what effects does essentially, it gives you options in various different ways. It gives you pattern options. Patterns are basically that, right? It gives you about 30 some odd patterns to add into your garment. So for example, if I put the monochrome design, it gives you this leafy look. That leafy look, can be increased with the scale. It can be rotated, although rotation in this particular design doesn't really affect it much. But it does give you that ability. Some designs really you can use rotate, and this one not so much. And then the opacity. The opacity is big. This is where you kind of get matted out colors. For example, there's a red, and it's kind of matted out with a darker red, and it gives you that kind of look to it. So, or if you bring up the opacity all the way up, then that kind of gives you that look. So you're able to choose various different patterns, and depending on the patterns, depends on what you get. And again, with the scaling, that allows you to further define what you're looking for. So that's patterns. Now, pattern blockers are blockers that we use to cover the front of the jersey. So let's say you had a lot going on, right? So let's go ahead and change the squares to, I don't know, what is this? Some kind of violet color. It looks really bad. So let's change it to orange. So now you have this a lot going on, and you want to put the team name or a sponsor or something in the front. So what we do is we give you the ability to turn on pattern blockers. So in this case, you now get black, and it blocks out the area, and now you're able to put in, like I said, a logo or a sponsor or any text really, for that matter. And then you have the ability to also add a pattern blocker to the back. This particular one just blocks out part of the jersey, where this one here blocks out the whole back. And you're also able to define the colors as well. So you can make that orange. I got to turn that one down. So you're able to make that orange, and of course you're able to make that one orange. It doesn't always have to be black. So those are pattern blockers. Fading blends. Fading blends is what it sounds like. You get to blend in a color into the garment. So in this case, you have a top gradient fade. Let's pick violet again, and all these default to 0, so you would have to move the opacity. You can obviously go 50%, you go 75%. Mostly I usually use 100%, and it gives you a fade. So that's the top gradient fade. The bottom is the same thing, just at the bottom. And then you have a blade fade. So these are little sharp blades. Look like little dots. You click that, turn on the opacity, and it's some kind of a gradient effect from the bottom. And then you have a line fade. So basically it's a fade line, but they're more, let's make them in red so you can see those. So it does that. So those are your fading blends. Some effects, other products have more. So if you see a fading blends and you have the top and the bottom, and some other products give you side blends. but it's essentially the same thing as these. You, instead of picking a blend that goes from the top and then you pick one that goes from the bottom, you're able to pick one that says left or right. How you know that is the jersey here says side by side. That is the SKU, or the name of the product that allows you to do that. Again, it gives you the ability to do blends from left to right as opposed to top and bottom, and that's called crew neck side by side jersey. So what I'm going to do now, I'm going to speed up the video and I'm going to design something so that way you can see, how it all works. Obviously no one's really interested in that design. There's not much going on there but just ugliness. But what I'm going to do now is I'm going to fast forward the video and design something cool, and hopefully you guys can follow along. All right.